Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I know that most of my viewers and most of my new viewers are people who are in debt, as I am in debt, and so I have been documenting my journey and a lot of people have been watching that, so I am assuming most of you are in debt as well. So I wanted to share the top 5 mindsets that you need to have in order to go through your debt-free journey. Because paying off debt is not easy. Paying off debt can take a very long time and it feels even longer than it actually is. And there are just some things that you have to put into your head or think of differently in order to get through this challenge. The first thing is forgiveness. I know a lot of people feel guilty about the debt that they have, or they are just having a hard time forgiving themselves for taking out so much debt. And I did this a lot too. I would look back and regret how much I took out, or think, what if I didn't take out so much? Or had I known then, I would not have taken out this much debt. But we can't change the past, and the only thing we can do is learn from it and move forward. But part of that moving forward requires forgiveness on your part to yourself. Now, of course, sometimes you could be in a situation where your spouse or your child may have built up the debt as well, but that is just as important to forgive them. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind here is a lot of the time we go into debt for a reason. And I know personally when I first started my debt-free journey, I had a lot of credit card debt and I felt really guilty about it and ashamed about it, but that credit card debt was helping me to survive. Now, I wouldn't have ended up on the streets because I have my family and stuff to support me, but that's not really what I wanted to do. But I went in credit card debt in order to live. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. There may have been a time where you lost your job or you were just short on money, and so you had to charge your credit card in order to support yourself or your family, to get food, to pay for rent, to do whatever it is to survive. And that's okay. Same with student loans. You know, I probably wouldn't have gone to school or wouldn't have finished as quickly had I not taken out student loans. So take a look at why you're actually in debt, and you can probably see that there is a reason for you going in debt, and you probably don't regret going into debt for that reason. The second thing related to that is taking responsibility for your debt. I know that a lot of people also like to blame other situations, people, the government, school, anything except for themselves for their debt. And that's not healthy either, because putting the blame on yourself, putting the blame on other people really does not get you anywhere. You're just going to feel hostile, or you may feel angry. And trying to blame someone else or some other situation isn't going to help you pay off the debt any faster, so there's literally no point of constantly thinking of that or constantly bringing it up. If you're somebody who wants an easy way out, you want the next president to just get rid of all student loans, or you want to file bankruptcy, which granted is not technically an easy process or a pleasant thing to do, but it is still a simpler way out than just focusing and paying off debt, then I suggest shifting your mindset to just take responsibility for your debt. You took out those loans despite being uneducated on them. That's okay. Just take responsibility for it. Just take responsibility for it and recognize that blaming other people is not going to help you, so you might as well just put it on yourself and allow yourself to get yourself out of debt. Number 3 is to see slow progress still as progress, because it is. And this is something that I have had to deal with a lot this year, because I have been saving most of my money, not paying off debt. So I've only been paying off a few hundred of my debt each month, and it honestly drives me a little bit crazy. But I am able to see that this is still progress. I am still going in the right direction. I'm not going into further debt. I am actually decreasing my debt, increasing my net worth, and that's all that matters. It's the same thing with everyday life or other things in life. Small action steps lead up to big results eventually. Typically what happens is you take all these little steps or make all these little improvements, and then one day there's this huge change. And for this situation, it would be all your debt is paid off, or you have paid off $20,000 or half of your debt. And all of that just can come from a few dollars at a time. So even if it's just $5 here and there or just $20 a month, that is something. I know when I first started my debt-free journey, I was barely making a dent each month, but it was a win for me when I wasn't going into further debt. So keep that in mind, that slow progress is still progress, and that's all that matters. The next thing is to have an abundance mindset, or basically just gratitude. I know some people are not into the whole idea of abundance or anything like that, but basically what I mean by this is to have gratitude for your debt. I talk about this further in my video, The Positive Side of Debt, which I'll link down below, but I really like to see this as a challenge, and I encourage you to do the same. To see your debt as a challenge, as an obstacle to overcome, and look at it as an exciting thing. I also like to see my debt as a learning experience, because honestly, without my debt, I don't think I would be as financially educated as I am now. I wouldn't have started this YouTube channel, which I do believe is going to help me in the future. I wouldn't have learned so much about investing. I probably wouldn't have learned about the FIRE movement or all these different finance things without my debt. And I'm so grateful for that, because I'm creating opportunities out of this. And that's pretty amazing. For me personally, I prefer not to think negatively about things in my life. I prefer to, I guess be more optimistic or see the glass as half full rather than half empty. And so I don't know how you feel about that, but being negative about your debt or just constantly dreading having to pay bills is not going to serve you. And I find a lot of happiness in paying bills. I find a lot of happiness in paying down debt. I love seeing those numbers change, and it's exciting. It's there, we already know it exists, so you might as well shift your perspective on it and just find the good things about it. So I highly recommend you go watch that video if that's something that you're struggling with. The fifth and final thing is that your debt does not define you. And this is really important because so many people make different areas of their life become their identity. And so you just see yourself as this debt, or you see yourself in this bad situation and you just associate yourself with that forever. And this is typically how you end up with financial problems for a really long time, or potentially for your whole life. But your debt does not mean anything about you. I think it's hard for a lot of people to accept that because it's such a big part of their life, but it really doesn't matter. Yes, it's a part of your life, and of course you are going to be paying attention to it, you're going to be focusing on it, and it may be a big part of your thoughts or what you're doing in your day-to-day life, but it doesn't have to mean anything. You are you as a person, and that is it. Your debt does not make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a good person. It is literally just money that you owe to a company or to several companies. That's it. Don't make it mean more than that. It doesn't have to. Obviously, I'm not saying to ignore it or to just keep going into further debt, but what I'm saying is that you are allowed to move on with your life. You are allowed to be who you are outside of your debt, if that makes sense. I think a lot of it has to do with people putting their self-worth with their net worth, and that just shouldn't be a thing. And I also think this is why people are so uncomfortable talking about debt or talking about money, but I'm able to completely detach myself from those numbers. At this point, yes, I do think about my debt quite often, and sometimes I feel behind in life because of it. But if you stop putting so much value in money in general and more so focus on just day-to-day life and things that make you happy outside of material things or outside of money, then you should be able to see this. You should be able to get out of the mindset that this debt defines you. That also means that you are worthy of being wealthy. You are worthy of abundance and getting out of debt and making whatever it is that you want to make. So keep that in mind, because if you have a scarcity mindset like that, this goes back to tip number 3 with the abundance mindset, then you will attract exactly that. You will keep living in scarcity. So just because you have debt or just because you're in a bad financial situation right now, that does not mean you are destined to be in that situation forever. Those are the 5 mindsets that I think are really important for paying off debt. Please comment down below if you would add anything to this list or what you think about it. Just keep pushing through and remember that every little bit counts. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next week.